Great. Liz, are we all set to get started?
Yeah, we are all set.
Great. Well, welcome everyone to the Academy of Whole Learning Information and Question and Answer webinar today. My name is Paul Glodemans and I am the Director of Admissions here at Academy of Whole Learning. We sincerely appreciate you joining us today and hope that this will be beneficial for everyone that is attending. First, I would like to go over today's agenda. I'll start out by giving a brief overview of Academy of Whole Learning, as some of the attendees here today have not toured with me and have not heard our story. Then I'll pass it over to Dr. Susada Grande, who is our principal, and she will speak briefly about topics such as our classroom environment, typical day, our curriculum we use, and some of our efforts during COVID. Then we'll have Lisa Janish, who is our Director of Behavior Education, speak about the role of our behavior therapists in the classroom. And then we also have the pleasure of having two parents on the call today, Aki and Michelle, who will share their personal experience with all of you regarding Academy of Whole Learning. And after that, we will open it up to questions. During each of our brief presentations, if you do have questions, you can use the Q&A button or chat button at the bottom of your screen. And if you're directing your question to a certain panelist, by all means, just mention their name in the question and we'll try to get all those questions answered for you. Oh, and for those of you who are attending out there, just an FYI that you are muted and your video is turned off, so no one, unfortunately, can see your beautiful face. Okay, let's get started. For those of you who have not toured and don't know a lot about Academy of Whole Learning, we are a private nonprofit K-12 school that's currently located in Minnetonka. We are moving to Golden Valley soon, and we'll talk a little bit about that later. We serve students with autism and other related neurodiversities. I would say about 65% of our students have a primary diagnosis of autism, with others having multiple diagnoses of ADHD, ADD, some sensory processing disorders, anxiety, cognitive delays, etc. All of our students are unique in their own way, and that's why our individualized approach really is successful. We were started back in 2003, so we've been around for over 18 years. We are an accredited school, and we currently have about 80 students, kindergarten through 12th grade. I always like to tell parents what kind of differentiates us from other schools, and it's really our small class sizes and the low student to teacher or student to staff ratios. Many of our classrooms have a teacher as well as a behavior therapist in them, and Lisa will speak a little bit about the role of behavior therapist a little bit later in the presentation. Another aspect is that beyond the academic coursework, we are also working with our students on some of those non-academic skills, such as social emotional skills, executive functioning skills, and life skills right within our classrooms. One item to note is that we don't have specific grade level classrooms, but we try to create classrooms of similar academic and social abilities. So for instance, you might have a classroom of 3rd through 5th graders. And with the small class sizes and a rotational structure, we're able to key on each individual child's needs at their level. I can honestly say that there is no student within our school that would fall through the cracks or fly under the radar. To go along with our K-12 school, we also do have an on-site behavior therapy clinic that offers not only psychotherapy, but group therapies and intensive behavior interventions. We also offer on-site occupational therapy, physical therapy, and speech through a contracted partnership with a local pediatric therapy clinic called Capernaum. We also have very amazing enrichment programs, before and after school programming, clubs, as well as we run a summer camp that'll be coming up in June that's open to our students, but also the community. In addition to this, we also have an adult education program, which helps to serve those individuals that are 18 to 26. In the end, we're really trying to provide all the services a child and a family may need within one facility. And through the growth of each of those programs and the generosity of many of our donors, as I alluded to earlier, we'll be moving into a completely renovated facility in Golden Valley in June. So we're very excited about that. The renovation is currently underway. And again, our hope is to have our summer programming over there in mid-June. Okay, so in giving you a little bit of background about Academy of Whole Learning, I would first like to start by passing it over to Dr. Susana Grande, who is our principal. And again, she's going to speak a little bit about topics regarding classroom environment, scheduling, our curriculum, and maybe some of the efforts that we have put into place for COVID. So Dr. Grande, take it away.
Good afternoon, everyone. It's so nice to be here to speak about our school, a typical day, some of the curriculum. I'd like to first start out by saying this is my first year here at Academy of Whole Learning, but my 15th year in education. What makes Academy of Whole Learning so special, at least to me, is that we have such a strong collaborative team. We have a strong school leadership team that consists of a director of behavior education, who is on our call here with us, a director of curriculum, instruction, and innovation. We have our director of admissions, Paul, who started the meeting. We have our administrative assistant, Liz, who is behind the scenes running the webinar now. We have a behavior therapist supervisor. And this year, we have even added a new position, COVID coordinator. And I'll speak a little bit more about that position and what makes our school so unique from others is that we have had no spread, and this is the second year of the pandemic. So very, very excited about our strong team that works collaboratively together so that we could have another successful pandemic year. So a typical day here at Academy of Whole Learning. Our lower and middle school classrooms have mixed age groups, as Paul mentioned, based on both their academic and where they are at socially. We have 2 lower school classrooms and 3 middle school classrooms. At the beginning of each day, students start their day with what we call motivate, and this is to get their bodies moving before the learning can happen. And so we really do support a holistic approach to educating our students, given that they have sensory needs and unique needs. Also, additionally, in the high school setting and as well as the middle school setting, there's a morning meeting so that it is consistent every day. Students know what the schedule is, what to expect. It's from the same group of students. It's really a check-in, and people get to talk about what they're looking forward to. Sometimes the teacher will have a fun question of the day that students get to kind of share. It's really to support their socializing as well as encourage students to really just be a part of a community. In ELA and math at our school, we use very extensive assessments to diagnose students, to meet them really where they're at. We collect a lot of data, not just in academics and ELA and math in particular, but we have assessment of functional living skills. We look at different skill sets that students come to school with, so we can provide them the best support. Additionally, we spend the first 6 weeks of the school year just teaching students how to do school. So, and while that's happening, teachers are collecting data and really working together in collaboration with the behavior therapists department, as well as with families, to really personalize the learning. If you were to walk into a classroom here at Academy of Whole Learning, what you will notice is there's whole class instruction, there's small group instruction, and then there's also independent time where students are exposed to, they can read literature, they can use technology, but rotations are one of our ways that we provide personalized instruction, and we group students by where they're at socially as well as academically. And then in addition to our strong academic, we also have social, emotional, and behavior goals. And Miss Lisa Janice will talk a little bit more about that as well. So really a holistic approach, not just to academics, but emotional, as well as executive functioning and behavior goals. Let's see. One thing that you'll also notice is that when you do pop into a classroom outside of academics, you'll notice that there are color charts where students are able to discuss where they're at emotionally, identify where they're at, name their feelings, as well as name a strategy to support if they're not regulated or if they need some extra time or pause. So that's another really cool collaboration between the behavior department as well as our teaching staff. What's unique about middle school is that if you were to walk into a middle school, let's say science classroom, they do whole class rotations there. So it's not just within the classroom, but the teachers also rotate to support in science as well. In the high school level, we have 5 different high school classrooms. We have 2 math classrooms, 1 science, 1 social study, and then we have an English class. This year we offer 4 electives. We have a Spanish class, communication class, art class, as well as future guidance class. We hired a student support specialist who serves as like a guidance counselor and also like jobs related, career planning, and just a more well-rounded, I think, beyond just post-secondary education. So our high school setting is sort of modeled after like a traditional school where students rotate for the different courses. And we have a life skills track as well as an academic track. And that is something that we discuss with families based on diagnostic assessments. And so that's something that is collaborative as well. Let's see. Oh, another thing that's unique about our high school is our high school teachers here at Academy of Whole Learning also serve as case managers. So students have an advisory classroom that they report every single day. Think of it as like a home family, a home base that they go to every single day. And their case manager, their advisory teacher, is sort of like the go-to person that manages their entire academic and social behavior learning goals. And the goal of that really is twofold, is to help students feel connected, stay connected, as well as to have a point person that is the expert of the student. So that's really cool and unique about our high school teachers that serve as case managers. Let's see. Talked about our future guidance teacher, who is our student support specialist, helps work with families, meets weekly with families, with Lisa Janish, our director of behavior education, to talk about job preparing for the workforce, as well as preparing for what is next after Academy of Whole Learning. Paul talked about our adult education program, which is 2 years old. It's going very quickly, and I'm sure that if you wanted to get more information about that, you can reach out to Paul or our adult education program manager, Mike Fate. What's unique about our high school, one other thing that's unique about our high school is we have behavior therapists that rotate. We have 3 behavior therapists that rotate between 5 classrooms. Which is a little bit different than our lower school, where we have registered behavior therapists from the clinic that come and work alongside students one-to-one, as well as alongside the teacher. And that's due to our gradual release model. So the goal is to have less dependence on a behavior therapist and more independence. Last but certainly not least, I'd like to talk about our COVID coordinator, Allison Barasco, who happens to be a board of trustee member and a longtime parent of Academy of Whole Learning. She stepped into this role. She had already been doing this role informally behind the scenes, supporting our executive director, but our executive director was wearing so many hats that we decided that the pandemic is not going away as we thought. So we created this position, and it has been so life-changing. As a parent of a toddler who is not vaccinated, I feel 100% safe coming to work and going home to my family, my little family, because Allison she provides on-site testing every Wednesday, the gold standard PCR testing, and she collects her little samples, teachers, school leadership teams, students, send it out to a lab, and within 24 to 48 hours, you get an email if you're negative and a phone call if you're positive, and it's been just incredible. We have just, I'm just still amazed by it, that when I talk with friends and family, they're like, no spread, no way, prove, like, we don't believe you. And it's like, it's the truth. And so we really are just so fortunate to have this position that we created. Another thing that Allison does, besides giving the gold standard PCR test every Wednesday, is she has an incredible contact tracing. So if somebody tests positive over the weekend or over a long holiday, or just they're not feeling good, she tracks it all and has a spreadsheet, and we just are able to nip it in the bud. I'm so super thankful for her and that role. Let's see. We have, I don't know how to describe this, but we have sort of a Ghostbuster style disinfecting system that when it is sprayed, apparently it's good for 28 days, I was told. Joe, our manager of the property, does that, and it's just something that's provide us peace of mind for parents as well as staff. And also, one last thing, I promise my last thing, is we have 100% of our staff vaccinated and boosted. So that is just something that, again, hopefully will give everyone peace of mind. And then before I hand it off, I just wanted to point out that our theme for this year is building our future together. So thank you so much for the opportunity for me to share.
Great, thank you, Dr. Grande. Appreciate all that information that you were able to share. Next, we'll have Lisa Janish, who is our Director of Behavior Education, speak briefly about our behavior therapists in our classrooms and some of the other skills we are teaching beyond just the academics. Lisa, take it away.
Hi, I'm Lisa. Nice to see all of you. So at our school, we believe in regulation before education. And so that having the behavior therapist working alongside the teacher is really unique. And that's what excites me as the supervisor of the behavior therapist. Working side by side with the teachers are focusing on that academic piece where the behavior therapist is focusing on that social, emotional, behavioral learning. We have a 3-tiered support system in the behavior department. Tier 1 is for all students. So all students have individual social, emotional, behavioral goals that are tracked by the behavior therapist and teacher and worked on throughout the day. And then a report or summary goes home to parents once a month so that everyone knows how their student is doing. And then also there are classroom goals that the behavior therapist and teacher work on together, collecting data again and analyzing that data and working on interventions and prompting strategies that are working. Also in that tier 1, students receive individual and general accommodations. So some of our general accommodations might be that we have a whole variety of different chairs that rock, that wiggle, that wobble, a ball, so that it helps that student stay focused, whatever works for that student. We also have covers over our lights, so they're softer. We have break spaces within every single classroom so that if a student starts to feel frustrated, they have a place to go that's a little private, that they can set a timer for 5 minutes, and there may be a weighted blanket, a fidget, whatever that student needs to set a timer to get regulated and then come right back to class so that they can learn again. So that's really helpful to have that in the classes. We also have hangout spaces, and I can't wait to see our new building, what that is all going to be. But hangout spaces in the classroom are help to foster socialization skills so that when students are done with their work, they would go to the hangout space and socialize and talk to their friends, which is awesome. And so if students are needing maybe just a little bit extra support, then they would go to the tier 2, which we would then have maybe an official behavior plan or an intervention plan that is just specific to that student. And we would collect data on that and have interventions and keep track of that and keep the parents involved as well. And then also in the high school, we have some pull-out social skills groups that we are working on some specific skills with the students in the high school. The lower school and the middle school, actually, they have a social skills class within their groups. So, and then if a student needs a little extra support, then we reach out to the clinic. And so then through the clinic, they would have a diagnostic assessment, and at that point determine if services are medically necessary. And then the services, like Paul said, they provide is the intensive behavior intervention or mental health support. And that's really helpful to have everything, like Paul said, in-house. So it really allows us an opportunity to collaborate and all together, and that we are working for the same goals and are really working what's best for the student. And it's so easily accessible that we can do that, which is really helpful. I also just wanted to talk a little bit about our clubs, after school clubs. It's an awesome way for our students to become social with other kids that have the same interests. And we're always open to new ideas, but we go with what kids like. Lego Club, D&D, Minecraft. Those are all great opportunities for kids to meet other kids that maybe they wouldn't have a class with, and then foster some new friendships. Yeah, so that's a little bit about the behavior department.
Great, thanks, Lisa. Lisa and her team really, of the behavior therapists, offer such an amazing added benefit within our classrooms. So it's great. Thanks, Lisa, for sharing all that information. Next, we have the pleasure of having, again, two current parents at Academy of Whole Learning talk about not only their experience, but their child's experience at Academy of Whole Learning. So first, we'll have Aki Yoshino share. Aki has a son that has been at Academy of Whole Learning since 2018. And Aki, could you share a little bit about your experience at Academy of Whole Learning, and maybe also a little bit about some of our ancillary services, wraparound services that have assisted Kai?
Absolutely. Hi, everyone. Like Paul said, my name is Aki Yoshino. I'm the mom of a wonderful 8th grader named Kai. And in full transparency, I also serve on the board of trustees for the organization. Like Paul said, we're starting our 4th year at the Academy of Whole Learning. And just to give you a little context for our story, so Kai was not speaking at 2. So we started speech, early childhood special education, got a diagnosis of autism at 3, and then a diagnosis of generalized anxiety disorder at 5. So the last time I was reading about this, it's like 79% of kiddos that have an ASD diagnosis also have some sort of co-diagnosis. So I would say autism and anxiety, they play equal roles in Kai's life. So we started at 3 at an organization called Partners in Excellence, an ABA center here in town. Wonderful experience. Was there until what would have been the end of his 1st grade year. Then we transitioned to Hopkins Public Schools. And in 2nd and 3rd grade, Kai was hanging in there. It was okay. It was a little stressful. We had a talk therapist for his anxiety. We had a great speech therapist, great occupational therapist. There was his autism resource classroom teacher, and then he would be mainstreamed half the day. So there were a lot of moving parts. And even though we had a lot of support for Kai with those therapists that I mentioned earlier, as I was trying to communicate the plans to all the parties, things were just getting dropped. The baton was not getting passed appropriately. And he was slipping through the cracks. And as the demands on him increased as he got older, his stress level during the day did. So in the winter of 4th grade, he started throwing up as we were approaching the school each morning. And I just knew, this is not going to work for us. So fast forward, we enter the Academy of Whole Learning in 5th grade. And I've been absolutely blown away by how far he has come since we entered those doors in 2018. There are three main things. I mean, I could talk for 12 hours about this, but there are three things I'll focus on today. The first thing that blows my mind every single day is the amount of connection that Kai feels at school each day. And you know, for those of you that have kids on the spectrum, human connection is not always a strong suit for our kiddos. But I will tell you, this illustrates it. So Monday was Valentine's Day. Over the weekend, I'm working with my beautiful son on his Valentine's. And, you know, we do the class list, we do the teacher list. And then I see, you know, he's like sitting there. I can see him. I'm like, what are you doing, bud? He's running through his day, thinking about every single person he's going to see. And he says, oh, Mom, Ms. Amy, she's a behavior therapist that pops in to support a peer in his classroom for part of the day. I'm going to see Ms. Amy. Can I make a Valentine for her? Oh, Teacher Kate is going to visit us for lunch. That's a former teacher of his. Can I make a Valentine for them? Absolutely. Oh, I'm going to see Katie. That's his talk therapist after school. Can I make one for her? And I am just blown away every single day by the stories that I hear about personal connection. And it makes such a difference in our kids' lives every single day. The second thing is, it is so nice for me as a parent to have a whole community of fellow parents that understand what I'm going through and support me through it. And here's just another example. So this morning I had to pull over in the parking lot. When Kai shut the car door, the metal part of the seatbelt was in the door, so my door wasn't shut, and I knew I couldn't hop on the interstate before I got that shut. Anyway, run into two fellow parents that have graduating seniors. You know, I say, hi, how's it going? I know these beautiful souls from a parent support group that we used to have. A lot of things are on pause because of COVID, but we used to have a monthly parent support group. And so I know these wonderful souls. You know, how's it going? I know so-and-so and so-and-so are graduating. Tell me about their plan for next year. Then, you know, when you have a special needs child, you have this whole guardianship, conservatorship. There are all these legal things. Getting your young adult the financial services they are entitled to. You know, I'm asking, how's it going? They're like, wow, it is so much. Let's grab lunch in March. We have so much we need to download, you know, with you. I am so supported. I mean, in so many ways, and it makes such a difference. So there's the whole parent community support, but then there's the student community support. We're going to be meeting another family at a community pool this Sunday, a young man from Kai's class. And, you know, they reached out. I spoke with Kai about it. Sure, yeah, let's do it. And they told me it's the first time their offer has ever been reciprocated. And they're just like, thank you. It's so important that, you know, this young man has a friend that we can do community activities with another family. And I totally get it, because I've been that family looking for, you know, somebody to meet. So there's this whole community element. We're a small community, but we're such a strong community. And then the third thing that I cannot highlight enough is the integration of services. So we're so much more than a school. Like, we have the clinic, we have our enrichment programming, we have the school, we have the summer program. So as I told you, I'm not bashful about it all. Kai's anxiety plays a big part in our life. He's an only child. It's just the three of us at home. His life is, you know, pretty controlled. The most stress he ever has is just pretty much like these big group situations at school with unpredictable peers. And that's, you know what, it's supposed to be that way. And it's part of life, and it's part of his development, and it's wonderful. but he has a hard time sometimes with his anxiety, encountering some of these situations. So like Ms. Lisa alluded to, student behavior is tracked each week on this report. It's called Emote. So every week I get this report, his therapist gets the report, and we can see what has been a stressor for Kai, what his reaction was. Did it make him sad? Did it make him frustrated? Did it make him a little angry? And I go over the report with Kai each week. His therapist goes over it with Kai each week. His therapist and I and Kai in the same room go over it each week, just to make sure he's got these strategies for if this happens again, how could we handle it? What's another tool in your toolbox, bud, that, if you're feeling frustrated, you can access this to keep your body in what we call the green zone, right? Because that's the goal. The other thing is, Kai has also participated in a lot of enrichment programming. And with Kai's anxiety, we would offer in the past to try, a theater camp or horseback riding lesson, but for him to go in somewhere and have the staff get to know him and him trust, every place has different rules, every place has different expectations. And it got to the point where he didn't want to go to different places to try new things because he may have had an unsuccessful attempt or two. But what's so nice is that he feels comfortable at our organization. And so he is willing to try so many new things. He's done scouts, gardening club, basketball club, soccer club. And it's because he knows that he is safe, that if he needs something, he can ask for it, and that he will be listened to and he will receive the support that he needs. I guess the last thing is, like I said before, in public school, he had all of these supports separately, but when you align all of them and they are communicating with each other, and it is this living, breathing organism that is like really just a positive feedback cycle all the way around, it makes all of the difference in the world. And if your kid needs, like I do consider Kai needs a lot of support, but so if you have a kid like mine, once they get it, you will just see them skyrocket. And it's been a really life-changing experience to have them here. So it's a big commitment financially, it is, but I believe that our budget is a moral document, and the path that Kai is on now because of this decision that we have made, I mean, you can't put a price on it. So that's kind of our story. Paul can share my email if anyone has any follow-up questions. I'm totally open to that. But thanks for being here. Thanks for showing interest in this awesome organization.
Great, thank you, Aki. It's great to hear your experience and those firsthand accounts of, how our, organization has made an impact on Kai and your family's life. So thank you again for sharing. Finally, we have Michelle Williams, who is another parent. Believe it or not, this is hard to believe, Michelle, but her daughter has been at Academy of Whole Learning since 2016. So if Michelle can if you are willing to share a little bit about the impact that Academy of Whole Learning has had on your daughter and your life, we would appreciate hearing that.
Absolutely. Thanks, Paul. I can believe it's been 2016 because that was the year we moved back home. I was teaching at a boarding school in the South. And like a lot of parents of autistic girls, unless you're lucky enough to be somewhere where early childhood is as strong as it is in Minnesota, folks don't catch it. They don't, because of course the criteria for girls doesn't mirror the diagnostic criteria as written. So my Morgan, who is, God help us all, 14 and full of 14-ness, is going to be a delightful adult. There were years I wasn't sure that was going to happen, if I'm being honest. Not because she was a bad kid, but because we kept missing something. We kept missing something. We kept missing something. She was diagnosed with epilepsy at age 3, ADHD about 30 seconds afterwards, when she bolted out of the door at the pediatrician's. I kept saying, are you sure she's not autistic? Well, flash forward, it's 2016. I'm telling Dr. Wyan, who is now our executive director, I'm so glad she's not autistic because she's got enough strikes against her. And Wyan's looking at me going, Morgan was diagnosed that summer when we were finally somewhere where the girl criteria and her literacy rate could dovetail. You see, Morgan came in as a, oh my goodness, 3rd grader. She is now also an 8th grader like Kai, reading at barely a kindergarten level. She has a language processing disorder that's pretty significant. Nobody could get a handle on it. Mom, the English teacher, was trying, but Mom had kids to teach. Within her first year at OWL, she went up 5 reading levels. She is now, as an 8th grader, probably reading at an upper 6th grade level. Definitely testing there, I would say, where she tests and where she reads, often the case, not the same thing. Who cares? She's reading voraciously. Apparently she gets in trouble because putting her book down is a challenge. Lisa's laughing because she knows it's true. But I didn't expect that 5 years ago, 6 years ago. I certainly didn't expect it when she was 6 or 7. I didn't know what her path was going to be. I was terrified that she would be living in my basement until she was 30, whereupon, because I'm an older single parent, I probably would be rocking in the corner or the desiccated corpse and she'd be tending me. But none of that happened. And now here she is, and she is the protector of younger peers. She is the big kid who comforts the littles when they're crying at drop off. I'm hearing these things, not from my own child, mind you, but from the team, from her behavior therapist who works with her peers, from her teacher, from her mental health therapist, because Morgan also needs wraparound services. I hear it from her occupational therapist because Morgan has ADHD and dyspraxia. So fine motor and focus are really hard for her. I could not manage, and she would not be the successful person she is without where we are and where we're going. She has had sleepovers with friends. She has had friends sleep over. I can leave her home alone. And for all of us who walk this road, we know how lonely that is. Those things don't happen. Our kids miss those milestones, and Morgan doesn't anymore. And she doesn't because she's got the skills that I never thought she'd be able to acquire. She is an equestrian. She's a competitive equestrian. Her barn does camps on the federal holidays. On Martin Luther King Day, for the first time, age 14, Morgan went to day camp with her neuromajority peers. She got home, looked at me and said, "Mom, when's the next one? I'm going." Okay. And I'm texting her trainer saying, "Is that okay?" "Oh yeah, she was great. She better come again." I'm sorry, who, what? That's what Academy of Full Learning has done for us. I worry. I mean, don't get me wrong, I do. She's going to be 15, and those adulthood milestones, they're coming up. But now, instead of, "No, honey, you can't thrive at 16 because you're not focused enough," she looks at me and says, "Mommy, I don't think I need my driver's license when I'm 16. I'll drive the car off the road." We didn't have that self-awareness when we started. We didn't. That's the kind of thing that Academy of Whole Learning has brought to my family. It's the hope I've gotten. It's the fact that she is soaring in ways that honestly, I never thought she would. If I'm being honest, what Aki says about the parent network, nobody gets it like other parents who've walked this road. I never thought that we would be at this point, and we are. And that's all because of how we do things, because of regulation before education, because we understand our kids, and we're a team, accommodate them. It's the best decision I've ever made. I am a single parent. It is the most financially painful decision I have ever made. Paul's laughing. But it's the decision I will continue to make as long as she needs what the K-12 school and the adult program provide, because she's going to be an awesome adult, and I don't worry anymore.
Thank you, Michelle, for sharing your amazing and inspirational story. I greatly appreciate it. As you can tell by both parents that shared today, that we do have an amazing parent community here at Academy of Whole Learning. Parents are such strong advocates for each of their children, and it really helps us make this organization what it is. So thank you both for sharing those stories with us. Okay, we have about 15 minutes remaining, and I want to move on next to open it up to questions. We'll try to get to as many as we can. I want to have a hard stop date though at 1, just to be cognizant of everyone's time. If we do not get to all the questions today, by all means, people can email me directly via the email that I sent out the Zoom RSVP to, and we'll make certain to follow up with those answers or connect you with someone that can give you the answers that you're looking for. But let's jump into this. Again, if you have questions, please use either the chat or the Q&A area at the bottom. And if you want to direct it towards a certain panelist, by all means, you can do that as well. Okay, I think I saw one in here. The first one was in the chat. And it says, wondering how to enroll my daughter. Well, that's kind of my area, so let me speak on behalf of that. So I would say the first step any family should take is to reach out to set up a tour. And even though we'll be moving in June, it's nice for a family to come into our existing facility to view the students, view our classrooms, and see how we do things. I'll share a lot of the same information that I shared today, but you can ask additional questions on that tour as well. After the tour, if you are interested in pursuing enrollment or admissions, you'll receive all the materials, and we also do have the materials online in terms of the application. We ask for the most recent IEP, either the school evaluation or an independent neuropsych evaluation. And then we normally try to get a parent feedback, or excuse me, teacher feedback form filled out from their current teacher regarding their current academic skills and social emotional skills. You submit all those documents to us, myself and our staff reviews them, and then based on paper, we say, yeah, this child seems like they would be a good fit for our school. And then we would have them come in and conduct a one-day student shadow with us so that your child gets an opportunity to experience how we do things. Our staff gets an opportunity to observe that child or your child. And then based on that, we have a admissions committee where we vote to decide on admissions. And then if it's a good fit for both parties, that's when we would offer admissions. And during that process, if you do need tuition assistance, we do all of our online applications through a system called TADS, and that kind of works in concert with the application process. Okay. Next question. Do all SLP and OT services occur during the school day on site? Wanting to know if there needs to be additional appointments to help keep up. Also, are there scholarship opportunities and financial aid? Lisa, I don't know if you want to talk about the other services. Some of those services like OT, PT, and speech, again, are conducted through a pediatric therapy clinic that comes on site.
Yeah.
They're called
And
Capernaum.
Yep, and so yes, it can be during the school day. It could be a little after as well. It's kind of a decision that is talked about with the teacher, parents, kind of when it would be a good time. We try really hard not to be during any core classes. And then sometimes the speech therapist may come into the classroom as well, or the OT may come into the classroom and work on some things as well. So that can also be advantageous.
In terms, just to follow up on the scholarship opportunities and financial aid, yes, we budget a certain amount of dollars each year for not only our returning families, but also incoming families. So, and again, all of that is conducted through an online system called TADS. They ask for a lot of tax-related documentation. So some of it's based on household income, but also expenses and other considerations to kind of pre-qualify or determine how much you qualify for. And then based on what we have budgeted, obviously we have many families that submit. We unfortunately are not always able to match what you qualify for, but by all means, we want to work with families to help make this decision, hopefully more doable for you. Okay, next question. To all panelists, does the summer program mirror the school year or very different? So I can speak a little, and then if there's other panelists that want to share, by all means. So the summer it does emulate our school in the mornings. So the mornings are usually academic in nature. The afternoons are usually more recreational in nature. So the mornings really mirror our rotational structure. We usually work on math and language arts in those offerings. And then the afternoons, there's different recreational opportunities. And if you're interested in summer, we have updated our offerings on our website. At the top of the page, there is a summer tab that will show you all of those offerings, and you can actually register and pay via that page. Okay. Okay, we have one more question that came in. My boys have regulation issues when their anxiety is high. Regulation before education makes so much sense. However, they have had times when they are disruptive in class, specifically math class. Do you accept students that have these kinds of issues from time to time? Elise, I don't know if you want to talk on behalf of how we handle that, but by all means, a behavior, I would say, I'll just start by saying, if a student has a long history of major behaviors, aggressive behaviors, that might be a reason why a child may not be the right fit for our school. Obviously, the safety of our staff and our students is of utmost importance. So that would be a consideration that we would have to look at. But we do have supports in place for dysregulation, and I can let Lisa talk on behalf of that.
Yeah, we definitely individualize, and as in my first thought is that you said, especially in math, that we could get after that and decide, how do we break some of those skills down so that we don't have those pieces, and how do we set up some proactive strategies so that we aren't having a meltdown in math. And so really getting to know your student, I think is another area that being a small school, having a small school's classroom size really allows us an opportunity to get to know your student and get to know what motivates your student, what causes dysregulation, and not that we would avoid that, but how could we work through that in a better way. And so I guess those are some of the strategies, and we're always teaching coping strategies, and whatever is working best for your student, we would tailor that to your student.
Thanks, Lisa. Next question, and we have about 8 minutes here remaining. Can tuition be paid monthly? Absolutely. So we do all of our tuition payments through a system called Smart Tuition, and absolutely can the amount that you would owe for the yearly tuition can be distributed among 12 months, 9 months, whenever you decide to sign that enrollment contract. So absolutely, we can distribute those payments via Smart Tuition. The question in here is, will you share a recording of this presentation? Absolutely. So a couple days after this presentation, we will send out a recording to each of those that did RSVP. And by all means, if you want to share it with others, please do. So yes, we'll be providing a recording of this Zoom call a few days afterwards. Okay, next question in the chat area. Is there an application deadline for school and financial aid? We have kind of a rolling admissions process. So how we conduct that is once certain classrooms are filled, then a child will be put on a wait list. If we have enough need in that particular age group, by all means, we may open another classroom. So with that rolling admissions process, there isn't technically a deadline, but I would say the earlier you can apply, the better. In terms of financial aid, it's very similar. It's kind of a first come, first serve. So the earlier that you apply for tuition assistance, the more likelihood that there will be remaining funds in our budget for that we can distribute to families. All right, transportation. Is there any ways to hire transportation from home to school? Unfortunately, we do not have our own transportation system, being that we're private nonprofit. I will say that some of our students use other means. I would say the majority of our families drop off or they carpool with other families to bring their child in and pick them up each day. But we do have some families that utilize Metro Mobility if their child has medical assistance. We have had families contract through independent busing services, and if you need a list of those, by all means, we can provide those options to you.
One thing we haven't talked about either, Paul, is that we have also before school care and after school care as well.
That's correct. So in terms of timing this year, drop off for our lower school is 8 o'clock from 8 to 8:10. And then their school day goes to 3 o'clock. So pickup is 3 to 3:10. Our middle and high school drop off for school, the start of school is between 8:10 and 8:20, and then end of day is 3:10 and 3:20. But we do have, as Lisa alluded to, before and after school care, you're able to drop a child off as early as 7 a.m. And then for after school programming, we do have a lot of clubs, as well as after school care, a child can stay as late as 5 p.m.
And they are staffed by the behavior therapist.
Okay, let's see if we have others. Someone asked about how many openings we have. Well, I will say this. For our existing families, we ask existing families to let us know by mid-March if their child is going to return next school year. Once we determine who is returning for next school year, we immediately begin working on those classroom groupings for next year. And any incoming students we would try to position into the classroom that we think fits them best. So at this point, we do not know for certain what our returning student number will be, but we'll have a better indication of that probably in mid-March. Okay, next question. I would drive from St. Paul each day to drop and pick up. Do current families find that sort of commute to work for them long-term, or are most of your families on the west side of the metro? You know, it's interesting. We have families come from all across the Twin Cities, and families make obviously large sacrifices when it comes to their commute because we are a very unique school. Ideally, if there are other parents that would like to carpool, we have some that, are able to do that. We understand the commute in the Twin Cities with traffic sometimes can be very difficult. Hopefully with our move to Golden Valley, that may be a little bit of an easier commute from St. Paul, but maybe not. But yeah, we do have families that have commuted long distances for many years to have their child come to our school.
Paul, if I may jump in.
Yes.
Because mine is pretty darn close to St. Paul. We live in Columbia Heights. I know Aki doesn't live very far away from us. It is a bear. And yet Morgan's best friend's family commutes every day from Woodbury. And they do it because where their child is now versus where they were before is immeasurable. It's a challenge, but the school is very flexible about, yeah, there was a wreck on 394. I'm hearing that from a lot of families. So don't let the commute dissuade you at all.
Thanks, Michelle. I like to share this story. A few years ago, we had a student. They were commuting from Western Wisconsin, believe it or not. So again, many of our parents make a very large commitment and sacrifice to get their kids to school, and we greatly appreciate that. Okay, next question. Are there online options on snow days if we can't make the drive due to conditions? Well, as of right now, we are not offering, online learning, but I would say, obviously we try to accommodate for every situation. I don't know if Lisa or Susada, you want to chime in on, if we had a day off due to weather, how we would handle that situation.
Sure, I'd be happy to answer that question.
Great.
So most of our classrooms have online access to Google Classroom. So assignments are posted daily. So there's definitely that access, but as far as personalized learning happening, if it's not COVID related or if the whole school isn't closed due to the snow, we don't provide live synchronous classroom.
Great, thank you, Dr. Grande. Okay, so it's 1 o'clock, but we have 2 questions that I'm going to get to very quickly. How does the carpool system work? Is it a shared list among parents? No, what usually happens is if a parent, wants to look into carpooling, they let us know. We try to coordinate and contact a parent or parents that live in close proximity to them to see if there's interest. If there is, we will coordinate with that parent to reach out to the other parent. So it's kind of done through us if there's an interest in carpooling. And then the last one, and I apologize again that we're running short on time, but again, if there are any questions after or that we didn't get to today, by all means, please reach out and we'll make certain to get your question answered after this presentation. What is the address for the new Golden Valley location? It is 1021 Boone Avenue North, and the zip there is 55427. Proximity, it's close to Highway 169 and 55. So if you know where Brookview Golf Course is, fairly close to the General Mills corporate office, Care 11 Studio, it's kind of in that vicinity. Okay, I just want to thank all of our panelists today for hopefully a very beneficial and informative webinar here. And I appreciate all those who did attend. Once again, if we didn't get to your question and you have further questions, please feel free to reach out to me via the email that was sent to you from me to RSVP. So thanks again for joining, and hope everyone has a great afternoon. Take care.